It was already at night. Wine sat quietly at the passenger seat, fingers tangled in her lap, palms damp with nervous sweat. Her heart thud unevenly. Slowly, almost casually, she turned her head to the right. Jungkook, her husband, sat behind the wheel. His sharp jawline caught the glow of the passing streetlights, eyes focused straight ahead, expression unreadable. They had been married for only a few weeks, a marriage neither of them wanted, a marriage born from business chain, not choice. From childhood, Wine lived with her biological father and stepmother, along with her daughter, Ima. Within her own home, she had never been treated like a daughter, only a burden. The affection, the attention, every warm moment had always been reserved for Ima. The sister her parents adored so dearly. Wine was nothing but a silent shadow, constantly reminded of her worthlessness. They never laid a hand on her, but their words paced sharper than anything. Her marriage had never been her choice. It was nothing more than a business arrangement to benefit her father's company. She was fo- forced to marry CEO of Gion Enterprise. On the other side, Jungkook. He never wanted to marry someone he barely knew. But his parents insist, pressure him relentlessly to settle down for the sake of family image and business ties. So he compiled. One didn't know how long she had been staring at him. Realization hit, and she immediately turned back towards the window. She shook the feeling away. She had no right to feel anything for him, not after what he had told her on the first night of their marriage, that he didn't want this marriage, and she shouldn't expect anything from him. Why said nothing then? She was used to being unwanted. But somehow, without noticing, when it began, she fell. She fell for the way he carried himself, gentle, responsible, quietly mature. Though he never asked for this marriage, but he never treated her like a burden. Not once. Not like her parents. One stared out of the window now. Her heart pounded harder. Tonight they were heading to a business party. She had never attended one before. To make it worse, her parents and stepsister would be there. The thought of seeing them again made her. From the corner of his eye, Jago glanced at her. Then, without turning his head fully, he broke the heavy silence with his deep voice. Don't be nervous. Wan's head snapped toward him, eyes wide. He continued, his tone cold but steady. I'm here, always, so you don't have to be. Just those simple words is something tight inside her. Not completely, but enough to breathe. Enough to not to feel alone. Someone, for the first time, was choosing to stand beside her. She didn't respond. She only exhaled softly and turned her eyes back to the window. Every now and then Jungkook's gaze shifted towards her again, quietly studying her posture, her expression, her tension in her shoulder. But he didn't say anything more, and somehow that silence felt safer than any other words. The moment they stepped into the party hall, Wine's finger instinctively clutched of her dress at her side. Her nerves crawled beneath. She never attended a gathering like this before, so loud, elegant, and full of eyes that watch and judge. Jacob noticed immediately. He reached out and took her hands and gently hooked her arm with his. Wine's eyes widened as she stared up at him, innocent and startled. Her heart skipped a beat. Jungkook looked down at her. His face, however, remained unreadable. Those innocent doe-like eyes staring up at him, and something unfamiliar fluttered in his chest, something he had never felt for before. Don't worry, he mumbled, his voice deep and cool. I'm here. One simply nodded, swallowing back the tiredness in her thought. And then one's gaze landed on her parents, and there they were, her parents proudly introducing Emma to others with bright smile and proud praises. One stood still, watching silently, her chest tightened. They had never introduced her like that. They never allowed her to attend events like that, not even once. She said nothing. She swallowed the hard. Suddenly her parents' eyes landed on her and Jungkook. Wine quickly looked away. They approached with a forced smile plastered on their faces. Her father stepped forward first. "Hello, Mr. Jeon. It's so nice to meet you," he said quietly, almost earlierly. Her stepmother added with a falsely sweet tone, "How are you, dear? Are you doing well?" One immediately recognized the fake concern. She had heard it all her life, before anyone could respond. One of the major business partners approached. "Mr. Jeon, it's an honor to have you here," he said. Jungkook nodded once, hands in his pocket. His cold, commanding aura silenced the air around them. People watched him from afar. A man whose name held power, respect. "It's nice to meet you too." Jungkook replied, deep and steady. Then he turned sadly towards Wine. "This is my wife, Jeon Wine." Wine stared at him for a second, surprised. That one sentence held weight, claim, acknowledgement. Mr. Lim smiled warmly. "You are so beautiful, dear. It's wonderful to meet you." Wine bowed politely. "Thank you." Meanwhile, her parents and Emma stood awkwardly at the sight, ignored, overshadowed. Emma's jaw tightened. Fist curling, she glared at Wine. Ever since childhood she had resented Wine. Even though Emma got all the love, all the gifts, everything, it was never enough. Emma had thought the marriage proposal was for a random man, someone insufficient. She had never imagined Wine would marry the Jeon Jungkook, one of the most powerful, richest, and most CEO in the company. The man whose presence could make crowd fall silent and breathe casually. By the time she found out, it was already too late. The marriage had happened, and now the attention she believed she deserved was being showered on Wine. Attention from powerful people, admiration, respect. Now one stood beside Jungkook, receiving the very attention Emma had always believed she deserved. It made her stomach. Mr. Lim bowed respectfully to Jungkook. "Please enjoy the party." Then he walked away. Jungkook turned his eyes back towards Wine's parents, expression cold, sharp, unreadable. "If you're finished," he said, voice calm, "we'll take our leave." Her father nodded almost immediately. Then Jungkook guided Wine further inside the hall. Emma froze behind, eyes glued to the scene. Wine beside Jungkook, his hand on hers. The attention, the respect, the life she dreamed of since childhood. That should have been me. She clenched her jaw, and right then a thought twisted into her mind. She wanted Jungkook. She wanted his attention, his power, his status, and she would do to make him fall for her. Jungkook stood near the railing, one hand in his pocket, the other one holding his phone, as he spoke in his usual calm, deep voice. His expression remained unreadable, cold, and composed. Just then Emma quietly stepped onto the balcony, behind him, her heels clicking faintly on the marble floor. As Jungkook ended the call, he turned to leave, but Ima spoke first. Her voice laced with a fake sweetness. "Hi Jungkook," she said softly. Jungkook's brows grew together slightly. "Yes," he replied, his tone calm but distant. Actually, she spoke again, taking a small step closer. "I wanted to ask you something." His brow frowned slightly. "Yes, sir," he replied flatly, glancing at her for a brief second before his eyes flickered back to the phone in his hand. Emma took a stand of her hair behind her ear, putting on her best polite tone. "You know, I just graduated," she began softly, pretending to sound shy, "and I was thinking of applying for an internship at your company." At that, Jungkook looked at her fully for the first time, his expression hard and detached. But Emma continued, her voice soft and deliberate. "I really admire your company," she said with a faint, practiced smile. "It's always been my dream to work with you, to learn from you." Her lashes fluttered and her smile deepened. But Jungkook's face didn't move. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice deep. "You can apply, but it's not in my hand. You will have to go through the interview process like everyone else. I don't give special treatment." The words were firm, polite, and final. Emma's smile fluttered immediately. For a second, her perfect composure cracked. She looked away, trying to recover. "Yeah, sure," she mumbled. "I was just saying your company one of the best and I really admire you as a CEO. I am very passionate about my work," and before she could finish, Jungkook's phone buzzed again. He glanced down and spoke into it, his deep voice cutting through the air. "Yeah, I got the mail," he said to the person on the line. His eyes met Emma's briefly, sharp, unnerving, before he turned and walked away. Emma's jaw tightened as she watched him leave. Then a faint, skimming smile curved her lips. "Hard to get. I like that. My type." The smirk deepened before she turned and walked away. Meanwhile, Wine stood near the far side of the hall, her eyes searching quietly for Jungkook. She hadn't seen him for a while. Maybe he went outside. Her feet started moving on her own. That's when she saw it, Jungkook stepping out of the balcony doorway. And just behind him, Emma emerging from the same place, smiling faintly. One froze, her brow frowned slightly. Her heart sank as she watched Emma smiling brightly behind him. Thoughts began to race in her head. They were together on the balcony. She bit her lower lip, trying to brush off the uneasiness rising in her chest. Just then, Jungkook's deep voice pulled her out of her thought. "Let's go." One flinched slightly at the sudden tone, then looked up at him. "Are we leaving already?" she asked softly. Jungkook looked at her for a moment, then replied, "Do we want to stay longer?" One shook her head quietly. "No, my legs they are hurting from these heels. I had rather go home." Jungkook gave a simple nod, slipping his phone into his pocket. Without another word, he guided her toward the exit. One followed beside him, her mind still tangled with questions, her heart quietly aching with uneasy. Jungkook quietly entered the bedroom, still holding Wyan gently in his arms. She had already fallen asleep in the car, her head resting against his chest the whole way home. He didn't have the courage to wake her up. She looked far too peaceful. With slow, careful steps, Jungkook laid her down on the bed, making sure not to disturb her sleep. Then his gaze shifted to her feet, still in those heels she had been wearing all evening. He crouched beside the bed and carefully slipped them off. That's when he noticed a faint red mark on her ankle. He reached for the first aid box from the side table, sat beside her, and gently lifted her legs onto his lap. With a light touch, Jungkook's expression softened immediately. He sighed quietly, his voice a low murmur only meant for him. If you can't handle those heels, then why wear them in the first place? A small sigh escaped his lips, not of annoyance, but of something tender. After finishing, Jungkook loosened his tie. Then he lay down beside her, his arms slipped around her waist carefully, pulling her close. "If you are awake right now," he whispered in that deep, low voice, "you had never let yourself be this close to me." He brushed a stain of hair away from her face, his thumb gently caressing her cheek. A quiet warmth spread in his chest, and before long he closed his eyes, falling asleep beside her, still holding her close. Jungkook was sitting in his office, reviewing a few files while typing on his laptop. His sharp eyes moved quietly across the screen, sharp, focused, and cold. Then there is a sudden knock on the door broke the silence. Without looking up, he said in a cold, deep voice, "Come in." The door opened, and Emma stepped inside, clutching a file in her hand. Her lips curved into a fake practice smile. Jungkook looked up, his expression unreadable, his cold eyes landing on her. The aura in the room immediately shifted. Emma's smile fluttered for a moment, a faint shiver running down her spine under his pressing gaze. She forced herself to take a few steps closer to his desk. "Hi," she greeted softly, trying to sound confident. Jungkook's tone was clipped as he asked, "Why are you here?" Emma took a stand of hair behind her ear and replied, "Actually, I just done my interview, so I thought I had come to see you before heading home." Jungkook's eyes flickered back to his laptop. His finger began typing again. "I'm busy right now." Her smile fluttered. "Oh, come on." "Oh, come on," she said, her tone turning slightly playful. "I'm your sister-in-law." "You should at least make a little time for me, right?" That made Jungkook stop. He looked up, his dark eyes boring into her. "Exactly," he said in a deep, detached voice. "You are my sister-in-law, not someone important like my wife that I should stop my work for." Emma froze. Her fake smile disappeared completely. "Wife." Jungkook glanced up from his screen, his face unreadable. Emma took a step closer and continued, her tone laced with a, "Or should I say your first wife? Am I right? You didn't even want to marry her, actually." Jungkook's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "Who are you to talk about our marriage?" he asked in a low voice. "It's between me and my wife. You have no right to interfere." Emma's face twisted, frustration flashing in her eyes. She fisted her hands tightly, then took another step towards him to say something more, but before she could, her heels caught the edge of his desk. Jungkook's expression hardened immediately, his jaw tightened, eyes cold. But before he could react, the office door opened. One stood there, frozen at the doorway. Her wide eyes landed on the sight in front of her. For a moment, the world around her seemed to stop. Her heart dropped, her hands trembled. First, she had seen them coming out of the balcony together that night, and now this. Her thought tightened as tears burned her eyes. Without saying a word, she quietly closed the door. She didn't have the courage to go inside. She didn't have the right to. After all, it was a forced marriage for him. She couldn't expect anything from him.